So welcome to the ZTE Blade Velocity, a brand new smartphone which is interesting not necessarily because of its individual components, but because of how they work together to create an awesome mobile experience. Let's get started. So coming in at £150 in the UK, or about $180 if you're in the US, the Blade Velocity is a very impressive smartphone, and let's get on to why that is. In terms of its build quality, it's not exactly the strongest aspect of the phone. I think visually, the design flair is actually quite interesting. It's got these kind of black bars on the top and the bottom. I think they look quite nice. Having said that, the entire build is basically plastic. It doesn't feel particularly high-end, but it is nice and slim and doesn't weigh too much, so it cups quite nicely in the hands. Something which is quite rare to see is hardware capacitive keys, which feel pretty responsive and they do free up some room on the screen. So overall the build is good, but there are some imperfections. Next up we've got the camera, and here we've got a 13 megapixel phase detection autofocus sensor. And in terms of the detail, it's awesome. In fact, switching on your HDR mode and just holding the phone steady while taking a photo, you get outstanding detail. The color, the contrast is all extremely accurate. Very impressive stuff. It's got a decent depth of field, nothing outstanding, but you can get some nice professional bokeh effect if you try. The camera does vary quite a bit in terms of its performance. At its worst, it's probably average for the price, but the Blade Velocity in the right lighting conditions really does outshine its competitors. But unfortunately the video just does not live up to its expectations. On paper, the battery isn't exactly fantastic. We've got a capacity of 2540 mAh, which by today's standards is average at best. Having said that, I was getting at least a day and a half of total usage out of it. And on standby, it lasts a really long time. You can get about a week. Now, I have to say I really enjoyed the screen on the phone. It's not exactly got the highest level of contrast, but colors really do shine. It's good for games, good for movies, and the slight curves alongside the edges combined with the fairly thin bezels kind of brings you into the experience a bit more. It's quite immersive. So the smartphone unfortunately is still stuck on Android 6.0. But the company has done a decent job of still making it feel fresh and lightweight. It's got next to a stock experience, literally zero bloatware, and using the smartphone was constantly reminding me of the Nexus 5X last year. The speaker is pretty average when it comes to volume, but in terms of bass and considering its size, it's massive. And whilst that's great for music, it really comes into its own when you're watching TV. Now, one of the main selling points of this phone, one of the reasons this is such an interesting device, is its performance. Inside we've got 2GB of RAM and the Snapdragon 617. Combining those two together gives you faultless UI performance. Not only is everything fast, but it's also got these beautifully smooth transitions, which never falter. Playing games, even more challenging games like Modern Combat, played absolutely fine. And by fine I mean 60 frames per second with no hiccups whatsoever. Whilst 1080p is perhaps not the highest resolution to push, it looks crispy enough and the gaming experience overall was generally very immersive. So guys, there we have it, that's the ZTE Blade Velocity. And this phone kind of surprised me because when I read the specification sheet, I was kind of expecting a very average device. But whilst in no particular area does it amaze, it impresses all the way around, and the overall package that you get with this smartphone is one that is hard to fault. So thanks a lot for watching, I'm Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'm signing out.
Ooh.